Hey, what's going on, guys? Dr. Ethan Turner here with the Fantasy Headliners, and Jake sent me a mystery package, told me I had to open it up on this video. So I'm going to open up this package. I will warn you, I did cut the box open because of time constraints for this intro. Didn't want to make it too long, but I want to see what Jake sent me in this package. Let's go. Oh, what? Oh my goodness. What is this? What is this? Ooh, new microphone for the dock. There's more in this package. Oh, wow. This is, what in the world? He sent me a button. My own button. The dock gets a button. I get a button. That's 60,000 subscribers late, Jake, but I'll take it nonetheless. Jake makes you earn his buttons, I guess. There doesn't seem to be much else in terms of prizes in this box, but I will take the mic and the button. There is a note from Jake, though. I'm going to grab this note. I'll read this for you guys. Hey Doc, saw people giving you a hard time about your mic. Wanted to hook you up with an upgrade. Also thought the studio needed a little something. Love, Jake. What a guy, Jake. Just a great dude. Thank you. All right, so we got the mic set up. We got the plaque in the back. So we are ready to roll. And if I've learned anything from this package that Jake sent me, it's that if you guys are mean to me in the comments, Jake will buy me stuff. So please let Jake know what you'd like to change about me next. Make sure that it's somewhat fantasy football related. Maybe some new jerseys, hard to say. You guys just let me know what you think I should have in the studio in the comments down below. But this is the injury video, which means I'm going to be going through every single NFL team, giving you all of the injury updates that you guys need to make decisions for your fantasy rosters heading into the weekend. Let's roll. Let's get into it. All right, as always, we are going to recap how I did last week. Last week, I was down a little bit, only 83% accurate. I did have a few misses. Julio Jones' injury was apparently more severe than I thought it was. I thought they were just giving him some veteran rest, but he clearly has something going on with that knee. Alvin Kamara's rib injury is also apparently more serious than initially reported. I thought he just had a rib bruise. Turns out he has a cartilage fracture. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then J.K. Dobbins, this one is the most frustrating because he did practice in full all week last week, but was still held out of the game. I think the team has a plan for when they want to bring him back, but lesson learned, we cannot trust the Ravens ever. All right, let's head into the injuries, and first we have to start with a moment of silence, an official moment of silence for Trey Lance. I did do a video on Trey Lance earlier in the week. Make sure you go check that out if you want more details on what I think is going to happen with the 49ers, but just know he did have a confirmed ankle dislocation and fracture, which is what I projected him to have after seeing the injury on tape. He is done for the year. You're looking at about a 4 to 6 month recovery for Trey Lance. So Jimmy Garoppolo will be the starter in San Francisco. Next up, we got the quarterbacks, more quarterbacks, that is. And first, we got Justin Herbert, probably the biggest injury of the week. He is dealing with a rib cartilage fracture. So the rib cartilage is actually a little bit more tricky than the bone because the bones kind of wrap around and then the cartilage kind of finishes and attaches to your sternum. When you fracture that cartilage, it's not quite like the bone from a healing perspective. The rib bone has great blood supply. The rib cartilage does not, which means it takes longer to heal. They're a little bit trickier to rehab, okay? These fractures are painful, just like a rib fracture is, and they do last a little bit longer in terms of symptoms than a rib fracture would. That said, the lung is not typically involved, and thus it's more of a pain management issue. It's a lot less likely that the lung is impacted if something were to happen. So what we typically see is that players will get an injection to kind of block the pain and play through this type of thing. We know that Herbert did technically get his first NFL start in part due to the complication of a similar type of injection to Tyrod Taylor. However, that is a rare occurrence. So don't hold this against this doctor. He's probably done hundreds of these injections. It is not common to actually puncture the lung tissue or the lung cavity, that is, and let air into it. So that is really rare. It's very unlikely that happens to Justin Herbert. I do think that Justin Herbert has a chance to play this week with an injection. And if he is playing, he's, of course, startable. The other injury of note for quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson dealing with a right elbow injury. He was getting limited sessions in. He's practicing in full. He just he's getting a little bit of treatment for his right elbow. I would argue that about all of the quarterbacks in the league are probably dealing with some elbow soreness at some point throughout the season anyway. He's going to play. Don't worry about Lamar Jackson, even though he did show up on the injury report. Moving on to tight ends, we got George Kittle dealing with that groin strain that has kept him out the first 2 weeks. He was limited Wednesday and Thursday, which is a good sign that he is most likely on track to play this week. The team is expressing some confidence that he's going to play, which is another good sign that we like to see. I think he's on pace. He got the 2 weeks off. He's going to make his season debut this week. I'm calling it. I hope that I'm right. He has a great matchup to come back to. The secondary for the Broncos is really banged up right now, and that's already shown that secondary is not great against the tight end. I believe they're 22nd in the league in DVOA against the tight end specifically. So George Kittle coming into a good matchup, should be startable as long as he is playing. TJ Hawkinson's dealing with a hip injury. Limited in back-to-back practices this week. Hawk really isn't living up to that top 6 tight end draft capital that he had got in the preseason. I doubt that he misses time with this type of injury. It doesn't sound like it's anything too serious, just something that they're limiting him in practice, getting him some treatment. But we do have to hope that he finds some success in the pass game. That team is scoring points, but TJ Hawkinson has not been, kind to our fantasy team so far this year. So he needs to step it up a little bit to justify the cost that he was. He wasn't crazy expensive because no tight ends really are outside of the top 3 or 4. But we are spending and expecting a little bit more out of a guy of TJ Hawkinson's caliber in fantasy. Another guy that was producing, Dalton Schultz, dealing with a PCL sprain. He injured this in week 2. Hasn't practiced yet this week as of Thursday night. Playing on Monday, this looks like a long shot to me. I don't love starting guys, especially at the tight end position, going into a Monday that are hurt. I would say that based on this injury, we're looking at about a 2 to 4 week recovery timeline for Schultz. The normal recovery timeline is about 2 to 4 weeks. So I don't expect Dalton Schultz to play this week. If he does, he is startable, but you do have to take the risk of not having a backup plan in place heading into a Monday night game. Moving on to wide receivers. First up, we got Julio Jones. He's been dealing with knee inflammation / a knee injury. We don't really know exactly what's going on with this knee. The team is not being very forthcoming with information about Julio Jones. Now, he hasn't practiced as of Thursday, but he is a vet. He doesn't need a ton of practice time. If he gets some work Friday or Saturday, there's a good chance that he will play. But I don't know if this is something that I trust heading into week 3. I would not be surprised if he doesn't practice at all, misses another game. I think the team is, they're still winning, even though they are banged up at the wide receiver position. Expect another Leonard Fournette week, heavy workload for Leonard Fournette, because Chris Godwin, Julio Jones' teammate, also dealing with a hamstring strain from week 1, not practicing again in week 3, didn't practice at all last week. I think the team's going to take it really slow with Chris Godwin. I don't expect him back in September. Rashad Perriman could get some consistent looks in the passing game, with Mike Evans also suspended, not injured, but is suspended because of the shot that he took at Marcus Lattimore last week. And Godwin and Julio look like they're hurt. Neither one of them looks like they are on track to play. I do have Rashad Perriman as kind of a sneaky volume play if this game needs some passing. But again, Leonard Fournette is probably the guy you want, and the Bucs defense, of course. Also to note, doesn't really mean much, but Cole Beasley did sign with this team, so it could help indicate that the team is expecting to be shorthanded at wide receiver with Chris Godwin and Julio Jones dealing with injuries. Next up, we got Gabe Davis. He left the game with he rolled his ankle late in the week after my injury update. So Friday, I think it was either Friday's practice or Saturday's. He ended up missing the game, but we did try to warn you guys that that could be something that could happen in the live shows on Saturday and Sunday. I was fairly certain that Gabe Davis was going to miss that game, so hopefully you guys are checking those out with Jake and Kyle. But Gabe Davis has been practicing this week. He does have the ankle heavily taped. He's probably not going to be 100%, but I do expect him to play. Another guy that is dealing with knee inflammation is Jacoby Myers. Myers had some testing done, likely an MRI on Wednesday. He's been dealing with a knee injury since the preseason. He's been managing it, was able to play the first 2 weeks, actually leads the team in most receiving metrics, targets, catches, receiving yards. The team's not doing super well, but Jacoby Myers has been a stable PPR floor as a wide receiver 3. But I think he has re-aggravated this knee injury that he had in the preseason. I'm looking elsewhere for this week. I don't think Jacoby Myers is going to play, even though it does sound like the knee injury test came back negative. And so he doesn't apparently have a major injury, but I do think he flared something up. They're probably going to give him some rest at some point. I think it's this week. Next up, we got Michael Pittman. He's dealing with a quad injury. He missed week 2, but we did try to warn everybody that that was a realistic possibility throughout the week. Pittman's quad appears to be improving. It does sound like this is something that was only going to be a 1-week issue. He is practicing this week. I expect him to come back in week 3 and slide right back into that wide receiver 2, high upside, possibly wide receiver 1 range role. He's going to get targeted as long as he's on the field. Pittman is a pretty solid start for your wide receiver spot. Another guy that I don't think is a great start for your wide receiver spot is Hunter Renfrow. He's dealing with a concussion, didn't practice Wednesday, does not appear to me to be on track to play in week 3 unless something miraculous happens at the end of the week here. But the problem with Renfrow is I just don't think you can trust the guy. He looked like he was on his way to a better game in week 2, but I just don't know what this offense is going to look like. They've underperformed so far outside of Davante Adams, and I just have a hard time trusting Hunter Renfrow with what the offense has looked like so far, and I just don't really think that he's going to give you much, even as a wide receiver 3, 4, or flex spot. Next up, we got pretty much all the Green Bay wide receivers, Sammy Watkins, Christian Watson. Man, that's hard to say back to back. They're both dealing with hamstring issues, and Allen Lazard's dealing with a foot injury. All of them are hurting. Limited Wednesday. All of them got downgraded to a DNP on Thursday. So we don't really know if that was just scheduled rest because all of them are hurt, or if it is something where the team is just trying to basically get somebody from this core healthy. I do think that the majority of them are going to play. I would say that most likely Watkins, Watson, and Lazard are all going to play this week. But I don't know who I trust for my fantasy lineup, so I'm probably keeping them all out until I see some type of clarity on who the main guy is in this offense. One guy we know is the main guy is Keenan Allen. He's dealing with a hamstring strain from week 1. He's been doing some individual drills this week, a good sign that the hamstring strain is improving. I'd say he's got an outside chance of playing this week, but it's still more reasonable to expect a week 4 return for Keenan Allen. Re-injury risk is the highest in the first 2 weeks after returning from a hamstring injury. So if he does play, just know a lot of risk involved with Keenan Allen. Last up for the wide receivers, we got Jerry Jeudy. He has had rib and shoulder injuries that he was dealing with. He landed hard on the ground and actually landed on the football, and I think that's where he picked up these rib and shoulder injuries. Only had 1 catch in week 2 after leaving with this. He hasn't practiced as of Thursday, but was reported to be day-to-day, so it doesn't sound like it's anything too crazy. I think he's still going to be a game-time decision. If I had to guess, he will not play this week unless we see a positive report on Saturday. Make sure you check out the live stream on Saturday night with Jake and Kyle to see what's going on with Jerry Jeudy. I will make sure that they have an update from the doc. Okay, let's head over to the running backs. First up, we got Christian McCaffrey finding his way on the injury report for the first time this year with an ankle injury. I'm going to put that one in quotes, though, ankle injury. CMC is going to see a lot of planned rest days in practice as the team works to keep him healthy this season. He is still expected to play this week. He kind of made some jokes about, he can't even go to the bathroom without being put on the injury report. And so it sounds like he is perfectly fine. I am a little surprised from a fantasy perspective that people are down on Christian McCaffrey. He's still putting up top 10 running back numbers in PPR leagues in 2 down weeks. Just give it some time. If he can score some touchdowns, get a few more pass receptions, he'd be looking at a top 5 running back right away. Just don't overreact, especially with Christian McCaffrey. He is still doing fine. J.K. Dobbins dealing with that ACL tear coming back. Is this week the week? That's the question. He is practicing in full again. This is now the second week he's been practicing in full, despite missing week 2, which I expected him to play last week. The team chose not to put him on the PUP, which tells me that they either had week 3 or week 4 in mind. If he is healthy all the way through practice this week, I'm going to just double down and say that Dobbins will get some work this week. I'm not starting him in fantasy. I want to see him come back, see how he looks. But if he gets 2 full weeks of practice, I just don't see what they're waiting for at this point. It sounds like he's healthy enough to practice. He should be healthy enough to play. Alvin Kamara dealing with a rib cartilage fracture. He missed week 2. Same exact injury as Justin Herbert, which I already kind of went through, so I'm not going to go through the specifics of that again. But Kamara is a week ahead of Herbert in terms of injury timeline. I think he's going to be a game time decision Sunday morning. Make sure you're checking out the Sunday morning live stream, but I would expect Kamara to play this week with most likely some type of injection similar to Justin Herbert. DeAndre Swift is dealing with that ankle sprain that he had last week. Swift is going to get Wednesdays off most of the year this year. Unless something new comes up, I'm going to probably just remove him from this list of players to update each week because he's a stud, and if he's playing, you're pretty much starting him. Last up for the running backs, we got James Conner dealing with an ankle sprain. Didn't practice Wednesday. Individual work only on Thursday. Despite Conner's lengthy soft tissue injury history, I do think he is trending towards taping this ankle up and playing through this issue. I expect him to play. I'm not crazy confident that he's going to get a full workload. I am a little worried about Darrell Williams coming in and taking some goal line work from him. I think he's okay as an RB3, but I'm not expecting a crazy week from James Conner. I do think he is still startable in the flex. Kickers, I'm just going to talk about one kicker. He's really the only one that matters. Harrison Butker, left ankle sprain, not practicing even after the 6 days off. A little bit surprising there. I don't think he's going to play. He's probably still a few weeks out. I don't really know if I want to keep updating you guys about kickers, but if you like the kicker updates, please leave a comment down below. Let me know, hey, we love the kicker updates. Please make sure that you put them in the injury video, okay? Last up, we got my one defensive nugget for the week. Chicago linebacker and leading tackler Roquan Smith has missed consecutive days of practice this week, officially questionable for Sunday's game against the Texans. If he's not at 100%, or if he misses the game completely, don't tell Jake, but I could see this being a breakout week for Dameon Pierce in the running game for the Texans. So that's it, guys. Week 3 injury update in the books. Is there somebody I missed? Do you have a question for the doc? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to do my best to get to every single one of those. Did you enjoy the new sexy mic? Do I sound amazing? Please let me know if you appreciate the mic upgrade. If you appreciate the plaque like I do, the doc finally got his plaque. Hashtag thanks Jake in the comments. Before you guys head out, make sure you check out our friends at Fantrack. They got an amazing fantasy football app. You need to download that app. Let them know that you came from the Headliners because they are just doing fantasy right. Okay, they are trying to build an app. No fluff, no games, just straight up fantasy football. Easy to navigate. They're doing it all over at Fantrax. Go ahead, go check them out. Let them know that the Headliners sent you. But that's all I got for you guys this week. The doc is out.